Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with our iOS programming with UIKit series by taking a look at how we can apply shadows to a UI button and a UIButtons label. So much like applying a shadow to a UI label, applying a shadow to a UI button can provide it with depth. So it looks like it's popping up off of the screen of the app and stuff. It can look kind of cool if done correctly, and it can look very tacky if done wrong. So I'm going to show you how we can apply a very subtle shadow to the label of a button as well as the button itself. So let's get started. You can see here we have a button configured. I went a little bit further in configuring it than we did when we did the last video. We changed the corner style to make the button look like a capsule. We have a button that has the button rather I guess has a symbol. So we got an image in the button as well as some text, and we did a few other modifications, right? So if we go into Xcode and we run our code, let's see. This is what our code produces right now. You can see we have a button that says "Learn More" with a book icon. We can tap this button, change its color. All right, so we have all this stuff squared away here. Let's see here. We have okay, so we got system blue as our background color initially, and then our foreground color is .white. If we go down into our action here, we can say, right, so if the background color is blue, change the background color to teal, and the foreground color should be white, else. And change the background color back to system blue if it's anything other than blue. And then I see. We have we need to change the label to white here. There we go. Now it'll look better. But what we're going to take a look at here is how we can go about applying shadows. So if we go back up to our configure button method, all right. Here, what we're going to want to do is we're going to apply a shadow to our button itself. Right? And to do that, we need to access what's called a layer. So every UI button has a layer property. This is a CA layer type. And this layer has other properties that we can modify to modify the look of our button. So here we can say button.layer and then we can see we have all kinds of other properties. Like we can manually set a corner radius and all that kind of stuff to be a custom value. We want the shadow offset equals CG size width. We'll make this a subtle, we'll make it a subtle 10 units and another 10 units there. All right. Then we can say button dot shadow color shadow. We want let's see. So button layer dot shadow color equals dot black okay, so there's something that we need here instead. It's going to be so dot shadow color. So shadow color here is going to be slightly different in that shadow color. So the shadow color is a CG color. And we could set that equal to UIColor.black.CG color. There. So we're extracting the CG color from our UI color, and that will satisfy the shadow color property. All right. So now what we can do is we can also set the opacity of our shadow. So we can say button dot layer dot shadow. You can see we have shadow offset, shadow opacity, shadow radius. We have shadow color, shadow path. So we're going to have the shadow opacity is going to be equal to 0.25. It's going to be very subtle. And then we're going to save this and run it. Okay, let it do its thing. Okay, now we have our shadow applied to the button, but because it's black and we're in dark mode, we're not going to be able to see it. So we can go up to the simulator's menu here. We want device. We want okay. Okay, I guess what we want. Let's see. We want features, toggle appearance. Okay, so it looks like it didn't want to work, so let's toggle that ourselves. Looks like our appearance toggle doesn't work. That's a bug. That is 100% a bug in the simulator. Let's change the shadow color for now. We'll change this to white to have a much more kind of stark background color or color for the shadow against the background here. So we'll save that. We'll run our code. And so there's our shadow. It's very subtle, but it's there. Right? It is a very subtle shadow, but we do have it there. Let's modify it just slightly. We can say button dot layer dot shadow. I believe it's shadow radius. Yes. Equals, let's say 10. And let's run that. So now we've modified our shadow slightly. I obviously, being blind, I can't tell very many differences here, but you can experiment with the shadow radius. What we'll do we'll change the opacity to 0.5. And then we'll change the offset here. So instead of 10, we'll say 25. We'll save this, and then we'll run it. And now we can kind of see our shadow a little bit better. Again, 25 might not be where you want it to be. You might want it to be a little bit more subtle, but this is for kind of a, this is for experimentation purposes, for education purposes. All right, so that's how we can apply a shadow to our button itself. But what if we want to apply a shadow to the label inside of the button? Right. So let's go ahead and change this here. All right. So let's get rid of all the shadow code for our button itself, and we can then say button dot title label dot shadow offset equals let's say CG size with a width of, let's say, 15 and a height of 15. So very, very subtle, nothing too big. Button dot title label dot shadow color equals dot black. Now, to be clear, I'm not sure why shadow color in this case is a UI color, whereas the layer shadow color is a CG color. That I'm not entirely sure. I think that's just a core animation thing. That's core animation difference. And I think that's about all we need here. So let's save this and run it. Let it do its thing. Okay, so here we are. If you look closely enough, you can see that we now have a shadow on our title. We can tap the button over and over and over again, and we get the same functionality. The button changes colors. The shadow doesn't change. So this kind of gives you some idea of kind of the visual effect of a shadow you can put on your button or the title label of your button. You definitely don't want to go too crazy on the shadows, otherwise it's going to look really bad. And visual appeal is just as important to people who with sight as the user experience is. So you don't want to go too crazy with these visual effects. But that pretty much does it for this video, guys, on how we can apply shadows to buttons and the labels of those buttons. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.